All right, so welcome back. Today, what I'm actually going to do is give you my thoughts on the DJI Pocket 2, which I've had now for, I want to say, going on a little over a couple of weeks. And, you know, if you just really came here to see if I kind of like recommend this device or not, I just really want to cover that with what's called a bluff, a bottom line up front. And it is that I do. So much so, in fact, I'll say that this is actually going to be my new B camera, replacing my Panasonic G85, because actually I sold my Panasonic G85 as well as all of the Micro Four Thirds class. The thing that I really want to talk about first really is why I chose this over another Sony camera, which in all actuality, before I knew about this, the plan was actually to pick up either an A6600 or even an A7C as my B cam, just because the Sonys, you know, they share the E mount and I could just use all the same glass. Of course, that APS-C was going to give me a crop factor. However, that was fine only because I actually had a wide angle Sigma or Samyang lens I was going to use on the 6600 if I bought that. The A7C wouldn't have even been an issue because it's the same glass. They're both full frame, and the A7 III is what I currently have, so it's full frame just like my existing camera. But I digress. Needless to say, this thing was announced, and the price, first off, was just awesome to me, considering I was picking up the B cam primarily for video, not for photography. So I really wanted something that was going to shoot really good 4K. And when I found out that, you know, this thing not only was going to do 4K 24p, it was also going to do 60, which my current A7 III doesn't do that, as well as the ones I would have picked up. They don't do that either. As well as the 240, which I don't really necessarily use 240 frames per second in 1080p, but it's a nice feature to have. In addition to that, when I was looking at picking up the other Sony cameras, one of the other reasons why I was going with not just getting an A7 III, I wanted the smaller Sony that I could actually throw in a gimbal, because I actually wanted to try out active track, or whatever it's called in the gimbals. So I was going to pick up a Ronin, or excuse me, it was actually going to be an SC2. No, I'm sorry, a Ronin SE used, and then throw that other camera on top of it. But then it ends up being a lot of stuff, and I really didn't want to actually have to cart around the gimbal with a camera on top of it. So this to me solves that problem because the gimbal is actually built in. Figured I'd give it a try. If I didn't like it, I would just send it back to DJI, because that's actually where I bought it from. Sorry, I've got some notes over here. I'm just going to take a look just to make sure I don't miss anything. So that's really the main reason why I purchased this. The portability over that, my previous idea of just getting another Sony body and throwing a gimbal, or throwing it on top of a gimbal. And then also the price, because I saved quite a bit by buying this. Now, this is the Creator Combo. So it costs, you know, $4.99, but with that $4.99, you get a lot of extras, which we'll talk about shortly. So jumping right into the likes. So the things that I like about this, you know, so far, well, number one, the price, right? The price, considering you now get a wireless mic, which I really didn't need this. My plan was, if they didn't have this, or if this wasn't available, I would have just got the basic one, which was about $349, and used my wireless go. But now I don't have to. And the cool thing is I turn it on and the mic pairs with the do-it-all handle, which also came in the Creator Combo. And then there's a bunch of other things that are in here too that to me make it so it makes a lot of sense to buy the combo kit versus trying to buy all of these individually, because you'll get over that $4.99 fairly quickly. But with that being said, I really don't use the wireless mic in this very much. And the main reason why I don't is because the built-in internal mics, is what I should say, are phenomenal. These are quite possibly the best internal mics I have ever heard in a device. And that includes all the smartphones I've ever used, any of the cameras. So any of my Sony, Panasonic, and Canon cameras, I don't use the internal mics, because to me they're just that bad. But in this, I was shocked. I was expecting it to be kind of terrible, and I would probably end up using this more, but I really haven't. The only time I'm actually using the wireless microphone is if I'm standing a long ways off, which is not very often, but yeah, and it's nice to have that as an option. I could see maybe using it for interviews too, but I haven't done those with this. The build quality. So the build quality of this thing, I'm going to pop it out really quick just because this is something I can't stress. It's plastic, first off, but it's a tough plastic. You know, this is one of those things that when I got it at that price point, I just kind of figured that there's going to be some downsides. Build quality to me isn't one of them, considering it's made out of plastic. You know, now don't drop it, and it does say that it is not waterproof. So I have clear expectations, but for the most part, it seems like it's put together really, really well. Case, all the accessories, the exact same. Like, it seems like it's a quality piece of kit, especially considering the price you pay. And that's going to bring me right to the video quality. I was honestly prepared to be disappointed in the video quality. And I haven't been. I mean, I've been reviewing the footage, and I have a lot, you know, footage where I went out and shot in, actually, when I first started shooting, I just shot in my normal frame rate of 4K 24p. Loved it. The one thing I will say is, as long as you have enough light, it works well. You know, I try to stay away from ISO, any type of ISO value at all. Turn it as low as I can, just because this is a smaller sensor. I don't like introducing noise, and I'm the same way with full frame sensors. I don't really like using ISO if I can get around it. I'd rather just have proper lighting. But yeah, if you have the right type of lighting, I think the footage is nice. I would say the 24p is equally nice as the G85 that I sold. I would actually go a step further and say that it's far superior to my Samsung Galaxy. Like, this is a whole lot nicer. I think that's about it. Like I said, the video quality, and like I said, I'll be putting up some shots just so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. It looks fine. That's going to lead me to the active track. So the active track was weird when I first used it. I actually thought about sending it back because it kept disconnecting, and I didn't really like that. But then I kind of figured it out. So what I was actually doing is I was using face tracking, and we'll get into that when I talk about my dislikes. But I ended up turning it off and, you know, drawing the box around the object, which was me, and it was good. As a matter of fact, I was able to get away with being 80 plus feet. I'm gonna say like 81, 82 from this device, and it was still tracking me. I didn't even expect that. But it's funny because I had my smartphone app, and I was looking at the DJI Mimo app, which didn't disconnect either, you know, because it connects as well to this via Bluetooth, and it worked fine. And I've actually heard some, you know, complaints about the app, and I was expecting one or the other to not work well. But once I figured it out, just, you know, put it on object track and draw your square, and you're good to go. This thing works good. And that's, you know, kudos to the Do-It-All handle too for being able to have a signal that was, you know, uninterrupted when I'm that far out. Let's see, portability and design. Kind of covered this already, but yeah, this is a powerful package considering how small it is. You know, even with the case. I mean, you put this thing in here and you have everything that you need to shoot video. If you're a YouTuber, frankly, this would be the device I'm probably going to recommend to you over even a mirrorless system, but it really depends on what you're looking at getting into with YouTube. You know, if you have dreams and aspirations to do maybe much more, so who knows, maybe this may be a better investment. When I say this, I mean the mirrorless camera. But in all actuality, I think most people I know that are getting into YouTube, this would be more than enough. And I would highly recommend this over smartphones that I've used. Now, I have not used any Apple phones because I'm not an Apple person. I use Androids, but I've used some really nice high-end Androids. And then if we're talking about video, I'm taking this first. The gimbal alone, the stability you get from that versus any kind of electronic stabilization, I believe makes it worth it. Okay, so I think that's it so far with the likes. Let's jump into the dislikes. Dislikes for me, I'm going to say face tracking. And the face tracking was just, I mean, it works. But what I've noticed when I try to use it, especially in like this type of setting, it just moves for no reason. Like literally, it'll lock onto my face. And then if I just do this or do that, it just starts moving. And it keeps me in you know, it tracks me, but it thinks that I'm moving good. I think it anticipates that I'm going to move more. So then the camera just kind of slews. And then it only gets worse when you're a little further away from the camera. Because when I was outside, like I said before, when I tried object tracking, I got 82 feet away. When I tried to do face tracking, same sort of setting. I was actually at a soccer field, had it set up. I went to one of the center lines. I marked out at least up to 24 feet. And I think I was probably getting to about 12 to 13 feet and it would lose me. And I mean, it would lose me. And when this thing loses you, it kind of freaks out. Like it looks like it kind of kents off, shoots up and looks around for you. It's just all kinds of crazy. But once again, that was my first stab at using face tracking. I don't see using face tracking going forward because I really don't like it. And who knows, maybe they make an update to the firmware and it makes it better. The default framing for face tracking really isn't that great either. And it's funny because I didn't even think about that because I was so frustrated with all the erratic like movement. And I was watching the channel and there was a guy who was saying that you get too much headroom. And I was like, huh. So I went back and I looked at the footage and in some of it, yes, that is the case. Others, the framing is just odd. Like where it places you in the frame, even when it's moving around, I don't know what it's doing. I mean, it would be probably better if it put you in the center of the frame or if it was smart enough to understand the rule of thirds, but whatever. The framing is weird. So, I mean, there's a way to get around that if you were to crop in, but the problem with that is the camera's moving. So if you crop in too much, you know, now your face is out of the frame. So once again, I'm not a huge fan of it at all. And when I say crop in, I don't mean with the crop you get from the camera. I'm talking about when you try to crop it in post. You know, you may not even get usable footage if you do that. So I won't be using that. Next dislike would be there's not very many color profiles. And if you watch one of my first video on this, you see that I've compared the normal color profile to the Sony creative styles. But the normal and the Cine D-like is all you get. So who knows, in firmware, maybe they'll fix that or they'll add some more profiles. That would actually be pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, we only get two. But I do like the regular, the normal color profile. And then this one, it's kind of hard to call it a negative, but I have pretty big hands. I mean, I think if you can palm a basketball, then you may have a hard time with some of the accessories in this device. And I say that because, I mean, there's certain things in here like the wide angle filter. You know, for me, that's super tiny, right? I mean, if you look at it, try to move my head out of frame, maybe it'll focus. There we go. I mean, it's really, really small. And what I find sometimes when I'm using this camera, I'm gonna have to power it on. I have the same issue with accessories. And I go to put this on here, I don't know, like it's fine. And then when I go to take it off, I actually find sometimes that I touch the lens, not doing this part, but when I go to put it back into the holder. Once again, I have big clumsy hands, so maybe it's just me. But once again, this is small for a reason, so it's kind of hard to ding it for that. And I really think that really being small is probably worse when you start talking about some of the accessories, which you'll get to, because the tininess is yeah, you just kind of got to get used to it. And I'll get there. So right now I'm having that same issue, just trying to put it in the magnet. So it's in there. Thankfully it is a magnet, so it does just pop back in there and then you're good to go. So hopefully you can see what I'm saying. Okay, right there. So moving right along, that's really it. And when I talk about tiny stuff, I am not referring to the joystick. I think the joystick is the right size. It's actually bigger than my ThinkPad track point. So it's just right for me. I think that's actually gonna do it for this video. So what I'm trying to do is trying to keep these videos shorter, but what I might do is break these up into different videos so that you can just watch exactly what you want, or maybe even index them so you're not sitting here all day. But that's gonna do it for my overall impression. I'm keeping the device. It is my new B cam, period. What I like, what I dislike, and of course why I purchased it in the beginning over the Sony camera to begin with, to complement my Sony a7 III. So if you have any questions, concerns, click like, subscribe, and for now, that's it. Agent Fitz signing out.